Hey friends, welcome back. And if this is your first time here, I'm really glad you stopped by. Today we're diving into a topic that's been stirring up a lot of emotions, and honestly, it deserves the attention. We're talking about the 2026 Social Security Cost of Living Adjustment, also known as COLA. Now I know on paper, it might look like just a small percentage point, but for millions of Americans who rely on Social Security, that number is directly tied to whether they can pay the rent, fill their prescriptions, or simply eat with dignity. So here's the latest. The projected COLA for 2026 was just nudged up slightly from 2.3% to 2.4%. That change might not seem like much, and honestly, it isn't. But if you're living on a fixed income, you know that even a small increase, maybe $48 more a month for the average $2,000 benefit, can feel like a lifeline or a letdown, depending on your expenses. And today, we're not just talking stats. We're talking about what these numbers feel like in real life, because so many of you shared your stories in the comments of our last video. But before we go deeper, I want to hear from you again. Have your monthly costs gone up? Are you feeling the squeeze? Drop a comment below. And if you want to stay in the loop on these updates, be sure to hit that subscribe button. So let's break down what's happening right now. Inflation is cooling compared to recent years. That's part of why the projected COLA is relatively low. Back in 2022 and 2023, we saw increases of 5.9% and even 8.7%, huge jumps. But today, the CPI-W, the inflation index used to calculate COLA, is showing a yearly increase of just 2.1%. Now that might sound like good news, but here's the thing. Prices are still high. They're just not rising as fast. And when your income barely budges, but your rent, food, and medications are up 20 to 30% compared to a few years ago, it's tough. It feels like you're treading water, maybe even sinking. One comment from our last video really stuck with me. Someone simply wrote, "We just eat soup." And that hit hard, because that's not just a statement, it's a snapshot of real struggle. Others called the increase crumbs, or even called the system a scam. That might sound extreme, but when you're living this day in and day out, you start to understand where that frustration comes from. So let's talk about why the COLA estimate is what it is. The calculation is based on the spending patterns of urban workers under age 62. But here's the issue. Those patterns don't reflect how older Americans actually spend money. Seniors are putting a much bigger chunk of their budget toward housing and healthcare, two categories that the CPI-W doesn't give enough weight, and we're not guessing. Studies show that about 1 in 5 seniors are paying more than $1,000 each month just for healthcare. Over half of them are living on less than $2,000 total per month, and for nearly 40%, Social Security is their only source of income. So yeah, a 2.4% increase, it doesn't really move the needle. Which brings us to a key question many of you asked. Why are we still using an outdated formula that doesn't reflect seniors' realities? There's actually a better option out there. The CPI-E, which focuses on senior-specific spending habits. It's been talked about for years, but we still haven't seen it adopted as the standard. And then there's Medicare. Many of you told me you're losing nearly $185 a month just for coverage that you either can't use or can't afford. One person even said they haven't seen a doctor in years, but are still paying into the system. That's a painful contradiction. Now, there's been some movement on prescription costs. A new executive order aims to make pharmaceutical companies match U.S. drug prices to those in other wealthy nations. If they don't comply within 30 days, the federal government may step in to cap costs. This could also open the door to more drug imports and allow people to buy directly at international prices. But keep in mind, this is an executive order, not a full law. Legal hurdles could delay any real savings. Meanwhile, trade tensions are playing a role too. A temporary tariff rollback between the U.S. and China helped ease prices, for now. But if those tariffs return later this summer, costs could spike again, and that in turn could impact the final COLA figure, which is due out in October. So what should you expect? If inflation stays steady, the 2.4% estimate may hold. But if prices surge again, especially for essentials like food or medicine, we could see a bump. But there's a catch. Inflation hits your wallet before any COLA kicks in. That lag is where the pain sets in. One viewer put it perfectly. Any increase helps, but it never feels like enough to catch up. That sense of always being behind, not just financially but emotionally, is something I heard again and again. And it connects to the bigger issue. Social Security itself is under pressure. Unless reforms happen, the trust fund could face serious shortfalls within the next 10 years. There are ideas on the table: raising the income cap, changing how COLA is calculated, but no concrete fix just yet. Right now, over 70% of seniors depend on Social Security for at least half their income, and a huge majority, 93%, believe protecting the program should be a national priority. This isn't a fringe issue. It touches nearly everyone, whether you're retired or planning for it someday. And speaking of planning, navigating Medicare is overwhelming. If you're 65 or helping someone who is, you know how confusing the options can be. That's why I want to share a resource my team found called Chapter. What makes Chapter different is their mission. The founders created it after watching their own families get stuck in the wrong Medicare plans. Their advisors don't earn commissions, so there's no pressure to choose one plan over another. You'll talk to a real person who'll actually listen, go over your doctors, prescriptions, preferences, and help you find the right plan. And if you're already in the best one, they'll tell you that too. No games, no gimmicks. Okay, let's wrap this up. What I keep seeing in your comments is this: these updates don't just feel like policy, they feel personal. There's frustration, there's fatigue, but above all, there's a deep need to feel seen, heard, and supported. So what happens next? We wait for the final COLA numbers, sure, but more importantly, we keep talking. We keep asking questions. We stay informed, because the more we understand and share these stories, the harder they are to ignore. Tell me, have your expenses gone up this month? Have you had to make tough choices just to get by? Are you worried about what's ahead? Drop a comment. I do read them, and I'll keep highlighting your voices in future videos. If this helped you feel a little more informed or a little less alone, share it with someone who could use it. And until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.